The time has finally come, Seattle hockey fans. It's a game day, and I'm going to take you to the locker room at morning skate and get you ready for the split squad against Calgary. All that and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken. I'm your host, Erica L. Ayala, coming to you live from Kraken Community Iceplex. I'd say about an hour ago, we had morning skate. So I'm going to bring you some notes from morning skate and, of course, training camp. Of course, Locked On Kraken, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you your favorite team every single day. We're back to a 5-day work schedule, if you will, Monday through Friday, bringing you notes, quotes, and more from the Seattle Kraken. Okay, so I mentioned I'm here at Kraken Community Iceplex. I've got Tori Hickle over my shoulder here in the Filson ad because I'm right by the store in the Starbucks. So got my Starbucks, good to go here. But we're going to talk about game day. That's right. It's a Seattle Kraken game day, and I'm going to give you all you need to know about today's game day. Now, if you follow Allison Lucan, which you absolutely should, you'll see that she released the rosters. So we're taking on the Calgary Flames in our first game of the preseason, and this training camp roster split in half. There's about 18 players, including goalies, forwards, defensemen, all of it, that will not compete either up in Calgary or today at Climate Pledge Arena, where I will be, and we'll get to those guys in a little bit. But first, let's talk about your starting goalies. According to Dave Hakstol, we are going to see Philip Grubauer start in net and Chris Driedger start in net. Dave Hakstol told us yesterday in the media scrum that he will be up in Calgary. That leaves Dan Bilesma as the coach here at CPA. And so I will be at the game at Climate Pledge Arena as credentialed media. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But when it comes to goalies, I told you that this is going to be competitive. In a little bit, you're going to hear from Joey Daccord, and I'm going to talk you through an interview that I had with Philip Grubauer that I'm going to make available for the Subtext community. You can also find an interview a little bit later today that I had with Chris Driedger. So we're talking goalies because I do think it's going to be competitive in net. But again, the goalies that we're going to see in action, at least in theory, you're going to get Driedger and Stetska at Saddle Dome and Grubauer and Daccord here at Climate Pledge Arena. Now, before we talk a little bit more about goalies, I actually want to take you to what we heard Dave Hakstol say, because he had some interesting, somewhat cryptic quotes, but he said that guys are playing today for a reason, and guys are playing where they're playing for a reason. So here's Dave Hakstol today after morning skate.
Well, it's opportunity for a lot of players today, and that's probably the biggest takeaway of all of it. In some ways, split squads can be a little bit challenging because you're spread out, but you take the positives out of it, and it's a ton of opportunity for guys that have earned it through camp. Yeah, we'll probably look at it a little bit differently depending on the two spots, but nobody will play a full game today. I mean, it'll be, for our veteran guys, it's an opportunity to get in and whatever makes most sense for them. So that's in communication with those guys, and then it's opportunity for other guys to get in and to compete and try and earn some more playing time. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously you have, Stevie's here and Zuli's here, those guys working with them every day. So we have a pretty good sense of where guys are at coming through the first few practices. Now it's a chance to try to, go and translate that into game action. You don't put the weight of the world on one performance, whether it's a period or two, but it's an opportunity to show exactly where you're at. So end of the day, it's about the performance. Goaltenders know what their job is. They have to go out there and execute, regardless of whatever the scenario is. It's an opportunity to go and do that in game action. So you take their performance and the results at face value. There's no use reading into it. That's what competition is about, right? It's about what the end result is.
So there you go. Dave Hakstol speaking to us this morning at Morning Skate. Again, talking about how not necessarily be an equitable split, but does want to get some of the veteran guys, especially in goal, some touches. I think that's mostly Philip Grubauer. I think it will be interesting to see how Stetska, Drieger, and if Stetska, Daccord, and if we're being honest, Drieger, how they perform. But if you're not a part of the Subtext community, this is a perfect time for you to join, because Subtext community members, you've already gotten an exclusive interview that I had with Justin Schultz, and we did talk a little bit about UFA, unrestricted free agent. He will be one next season. But then also you'll get to hear from Chris Drieger. And I'm very curious to see Chris Drieger in action. I'm a little bit gutted that I won't see Chris Drieger at CPA, because he talked to me yesterday about this being the most healthy he's been in a training camp. And of course, coming off a pretty massive injury. So he talked about his injury. He talked about just some of the rest and recovery that he got while also rehabbing. And of course, we talked a little bit about his mental fitness and wellness. And that's been such a huge part of Chris Drieger. He's been very vocal with that. So if you want to join the Subtext community, now's a great time to do it. We're getting lots of behind the scenes content for you that you're not getting anywhere else. You can tell from these interviews, it's just me and one of the guys in the cubby, no other reporters around. So here's how you join. You can join by using the link in the show notes, but you can also text 918-731-3154. Again, you can text 918-731-3154. The first day you sign up starts a 14-day free trial. And after that, it's less than $5 a month for you to get exclusive access to some of the interviews that I'm conducting, some Ask Me Anythings, game day threads, all that good stuff. And you can always ask me any questions that you have. All right, but coming up next on Locked on Kraken, I want you to hear a little bit from Joey Daccord. I think it's going to be a really good opportunity for him to put his best foot forward. So you'll hear what he had to say in the locker room today. And, then we'll talk about some of these rosters as well. That's all coming up on today's episode of Locked on Kraken. Today's episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by Jace Medical. We want to let you know about Jace Medical and their Jace case. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get the Jace case is to fill out a simple online form. And in some cases, maybe you'll have to jump on a quick call with a board-certified physician. But don't be caught unprepared. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during an unexpected emergency. Jace handles everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So I think it's great. Not only do you have the Jace case in the event of an emergency, but also Jace Medical as a service is something that you can make sure that you get the ongoing care that you need via pharmaceuticals. And so you just head to jacemedical.com and they will take care of you. Jace Medical is simple. You go online, you fill out a form, and then you get the prescription life-saving medication that you need right to your door. You can get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics, as I mentioned in the Jace case, from Jace Medical today by using code LOCKEDON at checkout at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Don't forget to use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off the Jace case. Thanks as always for making Locked on Kraken a part of your daily destination. That's right, we're back to 5 days a week. I'm here in Seattle covering the Seattle Kraken training camp. I'm at Kraken Community Iceplex right now. About an hour ago, we had morning skate. It is a split squad. Let me go over once again some of what you will see for this split squad. Allison Lucan gave us the lineups. In In Calgary, you'll get Jimmy Schultz, Will Borgen, John Hayden, Ellie Tolvanen, Ryan Winterton, Cale Fleury, Alice Stetska, Connor Carrick, Riker Evans, Marian Studenick, Jacob Megna, Shane Wright, Ty Cartier, Kyler Yamamoto, had a nice chat with him today, Logan Morrison, Chris Drieger, Maxim Andreev, Cole Lind, Carson Reinkoff, Caden Hamill, Ville Petman, and Devin Shore. That means tonight at Climate Pledge Arena, where I will be, and maybe you will be as well, you're going to get Adam Larson, Jordan Eberle, Brian Dumoulin, Maddie Beniers, Andrew Petrolsky, Jared McCann, Vince Dunn, Philip Grubauer, and Joey Daccord, Yanni Gord, Pierre-Edmond Belmar, Mitch Reinke, V.A. Ottavainen. We've got Cameron Hughes, Jagger Burkus, Luke Henman, Tucker Robertson, Max McCorman, Petros Sapala, Ty Nelson, Edward Shala, and David Goyette. And it's going to be a good one. So if you missed the earlier part or maybe forgot, we're going to see Grubauer start in net here at CPA. We're going to see Drieger start in net, on the road. And it's going to be a good time. But speaking of goaltenders, again, there is a special interview that we have for subscribers to the Subtext community. You can text 918-731-3154 to become a part of the Subtext community. That's 918-731-3154 to hear a really good interview, I think, with Chris Drieger. And I did get videos. Some of them, I've mentioned this before, will be audio only. They're in the locker rooms, and sometimes the guys are, walking around. And I just always want to be as respectful as possible. I always ask the guys also if they don't mind being on video. Most of them are very accommodating, but sometimes I honestly just won't ask if I think, it would be anything more than just them in the video. So anyway, the point is become a part of the Subtext community and you'll get access to that interview. But for now, let's head over to Joey Daccord, who spoke to media at morning skate.
Was it 4 months? It feels like shorter than that, honestly. It was, it was really short, but it was good. I mean, just happy to be back at it. I like playing hockey, so I'm excited to get the season going.
26 games at the AHL level in the postseason. I mean, you set a record for one thing, but what did that teach you as far as the psychological ability to handle a workload like that?
Yeah, I mean, the postseason run there in Coachella was amazing. I was super grateful to be a part of it, and I think for myself personally, I've never been through anything like that, and just to be able to go through that and learn how to navigate that and how to manage that, and I think if that situation comes up for me again, I'll be prepared for it, and I can definitely draw on those experiences. It's definitely unique. I think there's not as much cohesion, I would say, as a regular game. It can be a little tougher for a goalie because there's not that familiarity that you have with so many of your guys when you're playing night in, night out with the same group, and there's a lot more broken plays. But I think for me, it's just sticking to the process, doing the right things, and if I do that, good things will happen.
All right, so that was Joey Daccord. Heard from him. He talked to us at morning skate today. Again, we've really got you covered when it comes to goaltenders. We've got on the Subtext group, you're going to get something from Chris Drieger, really talking about how he's feeling physically, what his goals are. He wants to be on this Kraken squad. He made that evidently clear. I also had a really nice conversation with Philip Grubauer. Now, that's going to go up on Subtext, and it will be audio only, but that will be on Subtext tomorrow. So again, if you're not already a member of Subtext, you get a 14-day free trial when you text 918-731-3154. Text 918-731-3154, and you can find the sign-up link in the show notes. We've got just a little bit more for you here. Kind of walk through the rosters. I know I've given you the rosters. Alice and Lucan posted them, but I'm going to tell you the players that I'm really looking forward to and some of the things that I'm hoping to see. There are also some players that will not be suiting up for the split squad. We'll probably see them later in the week. So I will get to that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by the one and only FanDuel. Now we know college football, NFL, all starting up. You still got the WNBA going strong in the semifinals. And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. All right. So who doesn't want bonus bets? All you got to do is place a bet, $5 bet. Like I said, there's plenty of sports, plenty to bet on. You also got the NHL future bets up. We've talked about that obviously a lot last season with Matty Beniers and the Calder running. So head over to the app. It's super easy to use, and there's so many different options. I mentioned future bets. We've talked about that a lot on the show with the NHL. You've got spreads, player props, over, under, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the National Football League. And thank you, as always, for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. And now I told you I was going to get into these rosters just a little bit. I showed them to you earlier. I talked about them a little bit in the last segment. But let's break it down a little, okay? Let's break it down. So if we're looking at these rosters that Allison Lucan posted, again, at Saddle Dome, this is going to be the crew that is with our head coach, Dave Hakstol. And so, you've got Ellie Tolvanen and, Chris Drieger are really kind of Cole Lind to an extent, Will Borgen. But as you can kind of see what I'm getting at here, this is, I think, the younger crop. We have some guys that probably are going to want to have Dave Hakstol take a look at them. I think Tolvanen and Borgen are interesting to me. I think they're going to kind of anchor this group. You've also got, as I mentioned, Riker Evans, Jacob Megna, Shane Wright, Ty Cartier, Kyler Yamamoto in this group. Chris Drieger, again, he sounded really confident, and you'll hear, if you are a Subtext member, you'll hear from him. But, and I think I love that he's coming in with that confidence. I love that he feels very comfortable and confident in his body, but he has to have a good training camp. Unfortunately, he's been hit by, whether it's COVID, ACL, all kinds of little nicks and bugs here and there. So I like that he's going to get some time with Dave Hakstol. Shane Wright, obviously, a big part of the conversation. I'm still leaning towards him being in Coachella Valley. But we'll see. Connor Carrick, someone coming back to training camp. We interviewed him in the inaugural training camp, but he makes his way back. Will he be able to stick around? We'll see. Devin Shore is another player I think is really interesting as well. So overall, I think for me, this speaks more to the assessment. Guys that maybe just have a directive. And I'll show this on YouTube for those who are watching on YouTube, because I was just kind of talking through it. But I think this is a little bit, if I had to guess, more of the evaluation, which then leads us to who are we going to see at CPA? And I mean, you start off with some veterans, including someone who's new to this squad this year. But I mean, you've got Larson, Eberle, Beniers, McCann, Dunn, and Grubauer, Yanni Gord. But then you also have a nice mix. And these are some players that I'm looking to take a look at. But also remember that it's a split squad. So the bench boss, if you will, for this group that's going to be at CPA is the one and only Disco Dan, Dan Bilesma. So Dan Bilesma is going to get to be with Goyette, Shala, Nelson, Sapala, McCormick. I mean, obviously we know what he can do. Luke Henman will be there. Furcus, Hughes. Pierre-Edouard is a really interesting player, and you probably saw Emerald City Hockey tweet this out. I think maybe Allison from 32 Crew also. But he was spending some extra time with some of these young guys that'll be on this roster and focusing on face-offs. So I think this is more of a maybe pro-ready in some ways roster. So the Beniers, the Eberle, the Larsons, the McCann, Vince Dunn, that's going to be for some consistency. You want your top line, your top guys to have some consistency, get them some reps. But then also, I think some of these younger guys, including Joey Daccord, are going to have an opportunity to really play and play together. Do I think that these are guys that are fighting for spots? Are they kind of the in-betweeners? In the case of Riker Evans, maybe, maybe. But, it's hard to say. I think for this particular group, these are going to be guys that we want to see how they're going to, and I think Dan Bilesma and his Coachella Valley crew, they're going to want to see what they need to do in Coachella Valley for some of these guys. Again, Riker Evans is in that other group, and he's going to be with Dave Hakstol. So I think these guys here that we're going to see at CPA, if they haven't already played on the NHL roster, more than likely we're going to see them at Coachella Valley. That's kind of my guess. And so Joey Daccord being in that mix, does that mean that, Dave Hakstol wanted to take another look at Drieger? We kind of know what we got from Joey Daccord last season. We didn't see anything from Chris Drieger last year. It's just rehabilitation. So I'll be very curious to see. Again, I wish I could kind of see Drieger in net, but we're just not going to get that. All right. At least not at Climate Pledge Arena. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about before we get out of here, because I got to make my way down to Climate Pledge Arena. I'm still at Kraken Community Iceplex. So who are we not going to see? If you are a part of the Subtext community, you heard from Oliver Bjorkstrand earlier. We're not going to see Andre Burakovsky, at least not today. I think we'll see him, but just not today. Melanson, we're not going to see Jaden Schwartz, no Jaden Schwartz, Jamie Alexiak, Gustav Olofsson. So Justin Schultz, who I also have an interview with him on Subtext, you should check that out. And Jack LaFontaine is someone I'm hoping I can catch up with before training camp is over. So some of those guys we'll see perhaps a little bit later in the preseason. But that's our show. Make sure you follow Locked on Kraken on social media. We're on Threads, we're on Instagram, on Facebook, and obviously most active on YouTube. So check us out, but be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other, and make sure that whether you're watching or listening to the game in Calgary, or if you are at Climate Pledge Arena, that you hold fast, you stay true, and you say loud and proud, let's go Kraken, and get fired up. Why not? Let's do that too. All right, I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace. That's true, yeah.